Hello everyone, and welcome to this animation in ParaView webinar. I will be your host today. I'm for this session, and I'm Mathieu Westphal. I'm a ParaView expert engineer at Kitware, and welcome with me.
So hello everyone, I'm Nicolas Vuaille, I'm a ParaView developer at Kitware, and I will do some demonstration of ParaView and the animation module. I think we just wait a few minutes, or it's okay?
No, let's
start.
get started.
Okay, fine. So first, a quick word about the context, and just to remember about ParaView. So ParaView is an application and architecture for display and analysis massive scientific data sets. It means that it's an application, so you have a graphical interface, you have a button where to click to do some analysis for scientific data. You can do a lot of stuff with ParaView. It's really extensible with plugins, with custom app, and so on. And it excels at display, so you can do some qualitative 3D rendering of your data to help you communicate and to help you understand your data.
Yes, I suppose many people here must already know about ParaView, I guess.
Probably.
But in any case, if you have any questions about ParaView and about anything during the webinar, please go ahead on the chat. You can ask any question on the chat. We'll try to answer them live as they're coming. If we miss it during the live, we will try to take a look at the end so that we to make sure we did not miss any.
Okay. And just to mention, so today we'll focus more on the display part. I'm not really on the analysis or the.
Yes.
Okay. So as a little word about Kitware. So.
Yes. So Kitware developed ParaView, as you know, and so we are organizing this webinar today. So Kitware is doing work in many domains, not only scientific visualization, but also in image processing, in computer vision, data and analytics. So if you have any needs in regards to these domains, you should definitely contact us. We'll be happy to help. Because we will provide to you consulting on any on our platforms. We'll provide support. If you have any questions about ParaView, just tell us. You can just ask us, and we'll answer. We'll also provide a specific development where you have a specific needs. We'll try to answer them, and we also provide, in a way like today, training. Where we can go to your company and provide some trainings on ParaView, vtkjs, CMake, and anything you want running our platforms.
So concerning today, we'll focus on creating animation in the ParaView software. So here just a quick demo of what we can achieve with it. So first, why we would like to do animation directly in the ParaView software, because when manipulating 3D dataset and scientific datasets, that can be complex to understand. Just having some 2D images that can be not ideal solution. And also for communication purpose, you may want to have a bigger overview on your data. So creating some nice motion on a little movie of your data may be really worth it.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm following what we will be talking about today, we will talk about moving the camera around. Is that correct?
Yes, first we'll see how to move the camera on your data, but we'll see also that you can animate filters, so modifying some parameters of your analysis along the time. Yeah, to create some animated scene of your data.
What about temporal datasets? Do we talk about that today?
No, we'll not. It's more complex. It adds some complexity to manage the time of the dataset and the time of the animation.
Okay.
So for now, we'll just focus to better understand the animation ecosystem in ParaView. Focus on unsteady datasets with just one time step.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. So let's start.
1 second. Yes, like this.
So how can we do animation in ParaView? The main place to do that is in the view menu. You have the animation view panel that you can toggle, and that should appear at the bottom of your application. It's basically a timeline with starting from time 0 to 1, and we will set up some track to control different parameters over the time.
Okay. So I see there are many parameters. What does that mean?
So mainly here, as we want to move around an entity dataset, we will be in the sequence mode. The sequence mode is just to mean that we will have a collection of frames that will be come successively. So in our case, by default, ParaView come with 10 frames. That's really a few. If you want to do something with 10 frames, it will be very quick. So I'd advise to increase these numbers. And that's mainly what we have to care about for this session.
Okay. So what are frames? Is a frame a second?
No, you don't have any kind of units in this menu. It's really just a collection of frames, and ParaView will, when you are in the application, ParaView will generate them as fast as it can when you play. But you can set up some FPS when you will be creating video. We will see that at the end of this webinar.
So should we set it?
Or we will do that just after.
Okay.
Just to mention that this first line, timekeeper, is for when you are using time step and want to do some complex stuff between the time of your data and the time of the animation. We will not care about that in this webinar.
Okay.
Okay, so now we will need some data. So up, we can load some states. Up, tick. A specific directory. Up, okay. So as I said, we will need more frame for this webinar, and that is a good start. And what we have here, we have just Formula 1 geometry, and around it we have a volume for containing vector fields that will allow us to calculate some streamlines. It's some kind of flow velocity around this geometry.
So it's basically output of a free simulation, right?
Yeah, exactly. So for the so maybe we want to do some analysis with streamlines. So just quickly set up it in our pipeline. Up and up, then we get, oh no, sorry.
Should just
x-axis, sorry. Up.
Yeah, that should do something.
You can move it maybe right here. Okay. And now we can apply. Okay, just reduce the number of, on the value will be fine, or 50, okay. Up. And maybe make the streamlines bigger so we can see something. Up, okay. And do some coloration.
No, we have some data to actually see. Okay, great.
Okay, so here you've done some analysis, you have a data set, you have some scientific results, and you want to communicate with that. So you can take some screenshot, ParaView already allow that. But so the first purpose, we can do some.
Well, let's say I want to create an orbit. I want to move around the data. How do I do that?
Okay, to animate the camera, you should choose it. You have a drop-down list in the animation view where you can choose the object you want to animate. So in it, you can find at the top place the camera, select it, and you have a second drop-down list where you can find different modes or parameters you want to animate. But to start, we just create a simple orbit. So that's the default mode. Click on the blue plus button next to it, and it will open you a little configuration dialog to create the orbit. But by default, this orbit is centered on your data and starts at the current camera. So you can just apply with the default value. That's really a good start.
Okay, so how do we play this animation then?
And now onto that, you directly can use the control in the toolbar of ParaView. So you can click on play and up. ParaView render each frame one after other, and you get your first animation.
Okay. So can we see the path of the orbit and even edit the path?
Yes, of course. So as you can see, when adding our camera track, we have a new entry in our timeline. So to edit it, you can double click on the header, and it's open some control dialog too. And for now, you have this table that indicates the first time and the last time, and that the camera follow a path between those time. So to modify or better see this path, you can again double click on the path cells. So we open another dialog, okay, where we can control the actual position of the camera. So if you want to modify the camera position, here you see that spline control appears on the screen.
I see that Ali asked a question. Ali asked, can we have the data that you're using, please? We definitely there will be a link to the data in the description. Maybe it's not there yet, but we will make sure to provide it. It's the data that anyone can use. It's with a CC license.
Creative Commons license.
Yeah,
yes.
Creative Commons license.
Exactly. So
okay, so now we see the orbit. Can we modify it?
Yes, so here you have a spline widget, as you can find in other place of ParaView. So you can graphically modify it by clicking on the control points and moving them. You can add or remove some control points also. If you have some exact value you want to set, you have also the table to modify the spline.
Okay.
So you can see that by default we have 7 control points, and it's effectively an orbit because at the spline it closes. It means that after the last point of the table, we go back to the first point.
Right. So can we play it the modified version now?
Yes. So to actually apply this new version, you must close the dialog by clicking on OK. Both dialogue must be closed. And now you can go back to the first frame, so it will set up the camera to the first. And if we play,
yeah,
you should see that the motion is not so smooth than before because I moved some of the control points.
Okay.
So that's just we start with an orbit, but as you see in the editing mode, we can move and make it no more an actual orbit.
Yep.
It's because this orbit mode we choose at first is just a shortcut to create what we call follow path mode.
Okay.
So follow path is actually just mean you use a spline that you define in the space, and ParaView will follow it. So,
yeah, with the same interface as the orbit. Okay.
So here you can remove this first track, and if I create a follow path track directly and I want to edit it, you see that I don't have the dialog to create the orbits, but directly I am in the same interface as before, where I can control the camera position.
It's an orbit, actually.
Yeah, the default is also a kind of orbit, but a little bit different than the previous one. So you see that we can control more parameters. In this dialog, I show only the camera position, but you can also modify the camera focus.
So this is where the camera is looking.
Yes.
Okay, so we couldn't make it move it, look at different stuff.
Yes, so by default, with this orbit mode, we focus one point that is the center of your dataset. Okay. But you can move it, and you can create another spline that corresponds to the viewport. You have also the up direction, so where is the up of the screen when the camera moves.
Okay, this doesn't change though.
Yeah.
Okay.
This doesn't. Okay.
Okay, so that's great, but let's say I want to have a finer control. I want to create some slow motion, for example. Can I do that?
So it's yeah, have a fine control on the position of the camera for specific time, do slow motion. It's a little bit hard with the spline mode because the spline mode is more here to define the whole motion of the camera between a first time step and first time and a last time. If you want to have some some kind of control points between, you would better choose another mode of the camera that is the interpolate camera locations.
Okay.
So before editing and creating a camera interpolation, just want to mention the existence in ParaView of the custom viewpoints.
Okay.
Custom viewpoints are some shortcuts to store camera and quickly set up them for the current view. So here you see I have some specific viewpoints. I can easily add another one by clicking on the plus add current custom viewpoint here. So that will really help us to create a camera animation in the interpolate mode, because we will set up different camera for each time we want. So okay, let's go. I have some camera. I create interpolate camera location track. I go to edit it. So at start, we have just two camera we control, the camera for the first time and the camera for the last time. So if I want to configure the camera I want to use, I can also double click on position, and I have another dialog. And here you see that we can use the current camera. We can set up manually the exact value for each parameter, position, focal, etc. if you know exactly what you want. But you can use this shortcut, the use current camera. So here we will have good help of our previous button. So I can click on my first button here, go back to my dialog, and click on use current. And you see all values have changed directly. I can, okay. And maybe I can set up now the last camera. So I set up a new camera here, go back to the dialog, use current, okay. And let's say I want to have final control. I want to go by another camera between them. I can add new control points. We call that keyframe in ParaView. A keyframe is the association of parameters and at a given time. So now I have a third keyframe, and I can configure it the same way by using another exact camera. Current, okay. So once I'm done, once I have the list of camera I want to use and configure the camera associated to them, I can click OK, and now generate my new frame. So you can see in timeline that I have a new vertical bar here that corresponds to my second keyframe that is between the first and last time.
Okay.
So now, if I want to play, I can go to the beginning of the animation and click on play, and we'll see that I go from my first camera to the second and then to the last.
Okay, so if I add more cameras, I would be able to really control the fine movements. Okay.
If you want to do some stop at a position, you can duplicate a keyframe, and then you will interpolate between the exactly same camera, so camera will not move anymore, and the motion can go further later.
And so to move this around, do I need to open the menu, or can I do it directly?
You have some shortcuts to modify your track. You can click directly on the keyframe to translate it to say, so you can move it at another time. So for instance, here I move it yes, at the beginning of the animation. So the first interpolation will be quick and the next will be longer.
Okay. Okay. So Yeah, can you clarify when we need to choose follow path or interpolate camera?
So as I said, after the follow path is more to create a whole motion over your data.
Okay.
So you have a start time and an end time, and you want to go through your data set during this whole time and set up something quite smooth. If you want to have some finer control, if you want to have some exact point of view at some exact time of your animation, you better use the interpolate camera. But the drawback of interpolate camera is that you have to add each camera explicitly manually. So if you have dozen on dozen, it can be really hard to handle, at least with the graphical interface.
Just 1 second, I see we have some questions. So Marco asks, could we show later how to show data annotation, little text and little arrows pointing into the data? I'm afraid that's not really the subject of the webinar today, but if you have any questions, as we will see at the end, you can just go on Discourse and add some questions, ask some questions there. And Meno ask, it would be nice if you could briefly say something about using a dataset with unsteady results and multiple time steps. I'm afraid this is a whole other subject which is quite complex. But there is a previous webinar that covers it a little bit. We will give the link at the end. But maybe we will do an actual full webinar about unsteady result at some point.
That could be a cool second webinar. The fact is that using unsteady and dataset with time step is a little bit harder to understand what happened because your data change at each frame because it's a new time step of your datasets. But while the camera and filters will change at the same time, for this first version of webinar, we just want to focus on the animation control and not to add some extra complexity for now, but that could be a subject.
We have a question from Bastien who asks, can you convert a camera path to a camera spline as opposed to interpolate camera, I suppose?
That's a good question. And now, sadly, we cannot convert both kind of camera tracks. So once you set up first camera, if you set up the spline, you cannot convert it to an interpolation.
Okay. Yeah, that's the limitation, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've seen how to move the camera around. How do we animate the filters parameters?
So that's quite the same way. So for now, we will remove our camera track, but yeah, you can choose in the drop-down list where you choose the object to animate. You see that you have also the list of filters of your pipeline. So you can choose it. For instance, we can choose our stream tracer.
Okay.
And then what we want to do, for instance, is to move the seed lines for our stream.
So that will move the streams.
Yes, to have another collection of streams computed for each frame.
Okay.
So we can look at the available properties animatable. So in our case, it will be it's called seed type 0.1 because we want to move it along the y-axis.
Okay, so there is 2 points, right? 0.1 and 0.2, and we will move the y-axis of both points so it can go up. It can go up. Yeah. Okay.
Of course. So we can use this for the first point on the other point of the line, 0.2 y.
Okay.
Okay.
And so I see that there is already some values. It's automatic.
Yes, we try to compute some values, some default values. That should be the bounding corresponding to the bounding box of our data. So sometimes it's not exactly what you want, but it's a good starting point.
Okay.
So for instance, let's see what happened with this one. So we can go back to the first frame. So this time we don't have anything in our view. It's probably because the line is outside of our domain.
Yeah.
So we can click on play to see what happened. Okay, so we see that we have to wait half of the animation to have something, but the line and in the domain. Okay. So now we have some streamlines, and you can see at each frame the line is moving a little bit upper on the y direction.
Okay. And so can we change the values then from the starting point and the end point?
Yes, it's the edition like we saw for the camera.
Yeah.
So we have some kind quite the same table as before. So you can choose to put maybe 0. It should be better. And you okay. Or you see there are another parameters that we not have in the camera dialog. It's the interpolation. Default is to do linear interpolation between both keyframe, but you can see the different options you have.
So we need to change both, right?
Yeah, we need to change both for consistency. Okay, 0. Okay, so now, okay, and now we see that at our first time we have our line in our domain. We have some streamlines. If we click play, we saw progressively the streamline going upper in our domain.
Okay. So yeah, with that, I suppose I can also add a camera movement at the same time. Is that correct?
Yes, you can of course combine lots of tracks. You see that we have 2 tracks controlling filters here to control both points of line, but we still can add the camera, for instance, the orbits, to do something quickly. And here, if we play, we will have either the filters recomputed for each frame and also the camera moving at each frame. So our streamlines are moving and the camera turn around.
Okay, that's great. And how do I save that? How do I send it to my colleague? How do I put it on the web? How can I do that?
So once you're fine with your setup, you can export this animation in different way. You have the save animation in the file menu that will allow you to save the collection of images or directly use video file formats such as MP4. So we can select it, for instance, and OK. Here, when you export video or images, you have some extra configuration available with the image resolutions. And an important thing, you can configure the frame rate. So here in our animation, we set up 100 frames.
Yes.
And so modifying the frame rate will modify the duration of video.
So frame rate basically is how many frames by second.
Yeah.
So we have 100 frames.
So 20, you will have 5-second animation.
Yeah. But 20 is a bit low. So if, let's say I want to have a 60 FPS video that span for 10 seconds, I would have to go there and put 600 and then go there and put 60. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, that's something you need to think about. Well, okay, let's go with 20 here, but yeah.
Okay, so now ParaView need to recompute each frame and do the rendering, and then concatenate it into the video file. So we can have a look at the video.
Yeah, okay. Seems to work great. And that's an MP4. I guess I can share it on LinkedIn. I can send it to my colleagues.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other way to export?
Yes, we have a last way to export the animation is to use the export animation animated scene in the menu. So in that case, it will use the vtkjs file format.
Okay.
I don't know if you.
Well, vtkjs is a Keytour specific file format, but it's open, so anyone can work with it.
Yep, and at Keytour there's another tools called ParaView Glance that allow you to load vtkjs. So it's intended for web purpose.
So just let me get this right. It will export the scene. So it will actually export the 3D elements. I will be able to have the animation and still move around the scene if I want. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, it is. So. New question.
Yeah, how to make streamlines appear like a sweep effect from left to right. So it's a bit complex to do that in this webinar, but in the we will give a link to you to see how to do that.
So from left to right.
Yeah, you know, with moving particles.
Yeah, so like if particles were moving, yes.
But this is something we've shown in the previous webinar.
Yeah.
From the file size, strictly speaking, if I export VTK file format, is it lighter? If you export to a vtkjs file format, it will be lighter than MP4 for sure, because MP4 is, you know, images, and they can be high resolution images, and there is a lot of them. And the vtkjs file is just a geometry, so it will be lighter. But to put that into a web page, you need to have the code that supports it, and it depends on the context. So you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to say that that's not exactly the same use case. vtkjs is when you have a ParaView glance or another application that can load it, whereas video files are already commonly supported on each computer, smartphone, or whatever.
We have a very good question from Arjevis. Can we do a cut section of the object and animate the section running through it, showing some data? This is actually very much doable.
Yep. So we can maybe
you can
just
add. You can hide the stream tracer, I think.
On the stream tracer?
No, you can hide the stream tracer.
Sorry. Up. We can do some slicing, for instance, of our vector field datasets. Okay, and apply like that. Do some coloration. Up. Yeah. Do some coloration. And then you can animate a parameter that will move the plane up. If I can disable other animation for now, and I can use the slice object to animate with the slice offset values. And if I click on the plus, up, I should have a moving plane. Although maybe again, maybe it will be out of the domain at first, and
maybe you can hide the widget. No, it's in the slice. Show plane.
Okay, and now wait. Okay, up.
Okay, so it's a bit out of domain, but we got it.
Yes. If we can go up here, you will see that playing the animation in this time frame will show your slice moving. And
I guess we can put that with the streamlines and with the camera moving and everything.
Yes, you can do all of that.
Can you do that? Just enable everything.
Yes. So we should show again the streamlines. We can go at the first and up at first.
Yeah, okay. But we see that ParaView is slowing down a little bit now.
Yes, because for each frame, ParaView should recompute the whole pipeline. So do whole calculation and rendering. So the more you have filters and tracks, the more it will be longer to render a frame.
Okay.
But if you intend to just export the video at the end, your video will still be smooth, of course, no problem.
Another question, what about PDF 3D export? I'm afraid to say that PDF 3D export in ParaView is not supported. PDF 3D is a whole different format than PDF. It's a proprietary format which we cannot use. Marco asks, can that be exported into ParaView Tram for web visualization? I'm afraid we're not expert on Tram, but I think it can. I think Tram can open a vtkjs file, so it should work.
Tram should be able to do that.
But if you have any questions about Tram, just let's get back to the slide maybe. We have to.
Yep.
No. Yes, this one. Okay, so if you have any other questions, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask them. We still have a few minutes left, if you want. So a few resources maybe.
Yes, also I didn't mention, but of course your whole configuration for your animation will be saved with the state file. So when you're working on your data, you can set up you can set up some animation, save a state, and close ParaView, open, and start back where you were.
Okay.
So for the documentation, as we said, for the questions that were a little bit out of the topic of this webinar, you can go to the forum for ParaView community. That's it's discourse.paraview.org, where a lot of other people can interact with you, or you can see already answered questions. If you want to go by yourself, you can also look at docs.paraview.org. We have the documentation of the ParaView interface with a dedicated page to the animation. And as we said, we have another webinar about doing some about streamlines in ParaView and animating streamlines specifically, and do particle tracing, if I remember correctly. So the link should be in the description of the video.
We do have a few very interesting questions. David asks, will there be a webinar in the future about rendering techniques, lighting, and materials? So there is one of the first webinar from 2020 was about rendering techniques. It's a bit out of date now, but you should definitely check it out because there is more stuff now, but it still contains very useful information. Maybe we will do a new one, a new webinar about this in the future. I think that would be very interesting to do a second pass on rendering techniques. Another question. Bruno asks how to execute Python script at each frame. That's something we did not mention.
Yes, that's some going further stuff, but effectively, if you test it, you probably saw that there's a Python object you can animate it. So if you choose that, the created track contains, and if you edit the track, you have this kind of a Python script you can execute, and typically the Python code will be executed at each tick. You have a method you should fill that is called tick, and this Python code will be called each time. If you're already aware of the Python scripting of ParaView, you should understand that you can do quite whatever you want from this file. You can also call some extra code at the beginning and the end of the animation queue, but mainly the tick is where the things happen.
Okay. I think that's it. Thanks a lot, everyone, for coming to this webinar. This is something where we will have a webinar in the future. Again, something we keep doing. So if you like it, do not hesitate to share it, because we will share actually the video. The video of the webinar will be available, not right now, but in a few hours it will be available. So you can look at it again if you need. You can share it with your colleagues. And yeah, webinar will be back in, I think, September, October, the second half of the year, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Thanks everyone for attending and for your questions. And do not hesitate to contact us through the forum or whatever.
Yes, of course.
Have a nice day,
Bye, everyone.
Bye.